You're going to give us a different type of a ball called a basketball, aren't you, Tom?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Well, all right. So you told me that you recently attended an ACC basketball media day. So what do you got for us?
Well, we had all the teams and coaches, and they brought two players to Charlotte for the ACC Operation Basketball, or just the media hoop day. And Duke, as usual, is the preseason favorite in the voting. And let me give you a little bit more here on how that voting turned out. Duke had 51 first place votes. No surprise, just because they always bring in so many guys, although they don't have a Zion Williamson or an R.J. Barrett this time. North Carolina was picked second with 19 first place votes. This was a surprise to me. Louisville was the third pick at 29 first place
Hmm.
votes, and Virginia fourth at 12 first place votes. And what I found interesting about Louisville being picked that high, they do have one of the top players coming back for them, Jordan Nwora. He was third team All ACC, and since all the first team and second team players are going to the NBA, that's actually he and John Mooney of Notre Dame were both third team picks. Those are the two biggest names returning. So it kind of gives you an indication of how balanced the race is going to be. It's not going to be, just Duke and North Carolina and Virginia. But what I find interesting about Louisville, Chris Mack came from Xavier to take over the program after Rick Pitino finally got busted
Hmm.
by the NCAA and pushed out, fired. And the football program was in a shambles with Bobby Petrino,
Right.
and he's a shady guy. But both Scott Satterfield, football coach in Louisville, has turned things around in 1 year. Their football program is more respectable. And Chris Mack now is starting his second year. So it's interesting that they could turn around their programs that quickly.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that, and I'm glad you brought that up. That Bobby Petrino obviously served out his time. Willie Taggart did the dirty work, and Bobby Petrino inherited it before, although Bobby had a good run prior to his leaving there. And Rick Pitino, so let's talk about Louisville for a moment, okay? Rick Pitino made his bed, he's going to sleep in it. Do you ever see him coaching anywhere? I mean, obviously, I don't think in college, but it seems like he's been blackballed from ever getting out there again. I don't know who would touch him.
Yeah, he was coaching over in Israel.
Right.
I can't see any college hiring him. And then as far as the NBA, geez, he's got to be pushing 70, isn't he? He's got to be in his late 60s.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so he's getting a little too old for that. But like you say, it's not just that the Louisville football and basketball programs are winning, but they have a much cleaner image now. You always kind of held up your nose with a Rick Pitino team and a Bobby Petrino team.
Yeah, good point too. You're right. I mean, yeah, they definitely had a black eye because of those two. And what's worse about Patino, what they have to do, vacate a national championship? Boy, I'll tell you. So now this is the only sport that you can vacate a national championship. I know the one that they vacated was against the Michigan Wolverines. So how do you play an entire season without a true national champion if they vacated it?
Yeah, it's just vacant. That happened in football too, didn't it?
I don't know.
It's hard to keep on track of all the scandals.
Right. I'd like to know: did the NCAA bother to send refunds for all the money that it collected about the games that never happened?
No, that's I guess that's water under the bridge.
Yeah, well, it's water under the bridge. No refunds, no returns. Take away the hardware, and it doesn't make a lick of difference anyway. That just blows me away. So I don't know, but I am happy for Louisville that their sports programs are on track in a very short period of time. So, all right, well, you got a lot of teams to talk about, and we're going to give you plenty of time to talk about them. So, you tell me where you want to go with it.
Well, let's talk about Duke first, since they were the preseason favorite. Coach K brought. Before we talk about the teams, let's talk about Coach K.
Okay.
He is. The subject came up about paying athletes, the image likeness case, because the California law had just been passed like a day or two before.
Right.
And Coach K was asked a lot of questions about it. He went on and to quite a bit of detail about it. He's in favor of it. He thinks that the NCAA should have been moving this way 10, 20 years ago, and that they kept their head in the sand, and that the problem, and he admits it's a big problem. I don't know how you're going to solve it. It just got worse and worse because the NCAA was not reacting. He wants to see the NCAA be more proactive. And he didn't claim to have all the ideas, all the answers, I should say, but he thinks that that's just the way it is. The horse is out of the barn.
Right.
These athletes are going to get paid eventually, and it's a matter of who's going to control it. Is it just going to be California that's going to be able to pay athletes? Other states want to do it. I think Florida wants to do it, right?
Yeah, I think, in fact, it's good that you brought that up, Tom, because I believe they're looking to bring their law in next year, actually, at the middle of the year. So then, at what point, now that you're on the subject about the law, Ohio State talked about that they weren't going to go ahead and play any teams in California. Well, great. If Ohio State's worried about California, then what about what's going to happen in Florida? Is Gene Smith not going to play anybody because they're worried about these guys getting paid, knowing that Gene Smith isn't scandal-free either?
Yeah, and that's exactly the point Coach K was trying to make was that, the horse is out of the barn. We've got to come up with a plan.
Right.
There's no looking back now. And he kept emphasizing we should have been doing this for a long time. But like he doesn't know what the rule would be. But he talked about having a commissioner of just basketball to handle all these issues and getting a committee together to study it, come up with a plan. He said it's way past the point that you're not going to be able to able to hold it off anymore.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm glad that you're bringing that up with that press conference talk about, because I know it's a topic of hot discussion for sure. So Tom, tell me, what other topics of interest stood out in your mind about this media day?
Well, this year, the ACC is going to play 20 conference games. They've been playing 18. So everybody's got 2 more conference games. And that was part of the deal with ESPN. The ACC wanted its own network, just like the Big Ten has a network, the SEC has a network, because they make so much money for the schools. And since the ACC football isn't as big, as popular as it is with fans in the Big Ten and the SEC, the ESPN kind of forced them to say, okay, well, we got to have 2 more basketball games, 2 more ACC basketball games to make it more lucrative, I guess. So the answer to where do you squeeze those games in? The 18 games already are played from January until the NCAA tournament starts. So what they're going to do is the season openers. First day you can play a game is November 5th, and all the ACC teams are going to play either November 5th or the next day, November 6th, the exception being Duke, because Duke is always involved in the Champions Classic that goes around the country to different cities each year with Duke, Michigan State, Kentucky, and Kansas. This year it's November 5th in New York at Madison Square Garden. Duke is going to play Kansas, and Michigan State is going to play Kentucky. So then Duke doesn't play its first ACC game until December 5th against Virginia Tech, at Virginia Tech. And then the second ACC games that everybody has to squeeze in before January will be played in late December.
Okay.
Coach K said he understands why we're going to a 20-game schedule. He's not in favor of playing a conference game that early. But, what's the solution? There really isn't. You just kind of have to do it, I guess. Maybe they can play it early December instead of early November. But he doesn't like having a game that counts that early in the season.
Well, let me go back to football for just a second, okay? I know earlier in the year that North Carolina took on Wake Forest in a non-conference game. I was actually happy that they had done that too, because, because you know what, that is a nice rivalry, and I know that one did not count in the conference standings. I believe it's a non-conference game. Is that right, Tom?
Correct.
Right. So, what are your thoughts about the fact that they did that? Then we'll go back to basketball. I've always wondered about that.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I mean, you go back to
Right.
the history of the league when it was just 7 schools, and they would play every year, and now all of a sudden they don't play.
Right.
And Duke and North Carolina State have talked about doing it. That's the other half of the equation where two teams don't play each other that are so close to each other.
Right.
But they've never worked it out. I guess maybe Mac Brown coming to North Carolina made a difference. He got that game scheduled.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, we'll go back to basketball. I was just curious with all these little North Carolina rivalries back and forth, and that one just caught me on. So, all right. So, what other things stood out about Media Day?
Well, one more thing, going back to the paying athletes,
Sure.
everybody focuses on a Zion Williamson and these Duke one-and-done players, and North Carolina has one-and-done, and how they should be paid. But I just don't understand how realistic it is for the entire nation to do that. I mean, Miami basketball, they don't even sell out their arena, do they?
I don't know. I don't go down to Miami, to be honest with you.
No, a couple years ago, that was big news that they were selling games out. So I don't think they regularly sell out. So, Miami's not bringing in that much money for basketball. Florida International, Florida Atlantic, how are they going to pay basketball players?
Well, they won't. You ever been to the Florida Atlantic University gym? No. Okay, because that's what that is. Lewis has been there, right? You've been
It's a nice facility.
Yeah, for what, 3,000 or 4,000 people? How you paying players at that?
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean the pay is going to depend on the traction of the school. So I mean, if I can add anything to this conversation,
well, sure,
it's that. I mean, they have free tuition, most of these athletes. So I mean, the idea of further giving them funds that they can use freely when most college students, and this is aside from sports. Most college students are struggling to pay for their classes, and they're ridden with financial debt. Post college, it would only cause more strife, I think, within universities. But again, it's really just a matter of how much the universities draw as far as revenue is concerned.
Well,
how's Coastal Carolina going to pay their football players?
Yeah, well, I guess the only thing I could add as a solution, times have changed. That's all I can say.
And times have changed. And they should have been doing a better job of trying to keep up with it. That's Coach K's point. The other point that was made, Jim Boeheim, the Syracuse coach, people talk about how poor Zion Williamson had to play a year of college basketball for free, and before he could go to the NBA. But Boeheim, and I've always thought this too, Boeheim made the point, Williamson playing at Duke translated into a $100 million shoe contract.
Right.
He's not playing at Duke. He's not worth $100 million.
Yeah, good point.
And then who knows? Once the boosters start figuring out ways to cheat, there's just no end to the scandals that could different ways teams can exploit this.
So, with that said, okay, let's just have a little hypothetical with it, because I know you've been around for a long time doing this sort of thing. Can you imagine what Jerry Tarkanian would be thinking about all of this, since he certainly didn't mind living over the edge when it comes to pushing the envelope?
Yeah, or Kentucky basketball,
right.
The times they've been on probation. SC football, picking just about any school. And they all I always say this, all excesses start in the SEC. You go back to Bear Bryant. He made a special dorm for Alabama football players.
Right.
And then everybody started copying him. And Bear Bryant had 200 players on scholarship just so they wouldn't play it somewhere else. What's going to happen? Are kids going to go somewhere just for the likeness image and not play? I don't know. It's like Coach K said, it's a very complicated issue.
Well, Bear Bryant didn't have to deal with the transfer portals either. So all right. So, what are your thoughts about defending national champion Virginia?
I like Virginia. I think people are underrating them. They lost 3 players to the NBA, but they have back. Where's my Virginia roster here? Hold on a second. I always struggle to pronounce his name. Mamadi Diakite, their big 6'8" power forward, who's a great player. And then Braxton Key was like a sixth man last year, and so he'll move into a starting role. He's a real good guard.